Top changes are all well and good, but let's look at some multiple top changes. First of all, the little Siamese in-hands multiple top change, which is where I'll turn 4 cards over and turn them directly into the 4 aces. This is a lovely little top change for switching multiple cards. Let's have a little look and see how it works. The cards I want to switch in are on top of the deck with a break below them. That's a 4-card break, if you will, at this point. Now I pick up the cards I'm going to switch out and I spread them. This gives me an excuse to actually put them together to square them up. Now I'm squaring them up actually quite precisely. I'm using the second finger and the thumb of the left hand. So I'm actually squaring them using these fingers. Second and thumb resting against the first. It's very important to realize that position. Because now what's going to happen, as I'm doing that, my left little finger is going to straighten out slightly. And that's going to kick across those broken off cards to one side. So I'm here, come across to the top, and now as the right hand comes to take the cards, that left little finger is going to straighten out and kick those cards out to one side slightly. So now as I come across here, those cards are going to kick directly into my hand. So there's the odd colored cards, the little finger straightens, the cards are kicked out. Now I'm gripping the top cards with my left thumb and just the sticky out cards with my right fingers, and I turn the deck over, spread out the cards to complete the switch. So at a working speed, here's what it looks like. There's the 4 odd cards, square them on the deck, turn them over, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4 little aces. Another version of the multiple top change is, let's say I want to mix 4 aces into the deck. I'll spread the deck across the table and I'll pop my little aces, I don't know, here, and here. Squeeze the cards together, snap my fingers, and if I need them, those aces are right back on top. This is just another version of that multiple top change, but kind of useful to have in your toolbox, if you will. You have a break under the cards you want to switch out. 4 cards. The break is right here. We have our aces. We do exactly the same squaring action as we did before, exactly the same little finger action to squeeze that card out, the cards out. But now instead of turning the deck, what I do is I swing this way, and as I swing this way, I'm taking the deck away from the sticky out pile and spreading the cards. So the cards are now switched. It might be a little more helpful if I do it with the cards face up. So these would normally be face down, of course. So here's my 4 aces. I square them, I spread the deck. Do you see how deceptive that switch is? It's all about just taking the cards. So once again, there's the cards I'm going to switch in. Here's the cards I'm going to switch out. I square them up. I spread the deck. The switch is done. This is a beautiful, beautiful thing. Learn it, and you will love me forever. In amongst our assorted little moves, let's add the Brownway reversal, because this is a very efficient way to get a card reversed in the center of the deck. I mean, let's say, for example, you've used techniques from all over this DVD and you've had a 4 of diamonds chosen. You've had it returned to the deck. You've had the deck shuffled and cut. And, of course, being brilliant, you've controlled the 4 of diamonds to the top. But now you want to reverse it in the center of the deck, so here's how to do it. You'd say to them, I don't think your card was the 7 of clubs, nor was it the ace of spades, but if I snap my fingers, there's just one card reversed in the middle of the deck. And that would be your card. So how do I do the reversal? It's the Browie reversal. The card is on top of the deck. We take a little pinky break underneath it, just as so. Just a break underneath that top card. As I'm going to cut the cards to show a couple of wrong cards, my right hand comes over the top and the right thumb takes over the break. I cut about half the cards from underneath, turn them on top, squeeze in, maintaining my break. Remember, that's their card right there. Now I drop all the cards below the break, turn those face up, drop these cards on top. That means the chosen card is reversed in the middle of the deck. Just one more time for you. So there's my break on the chosen card. Turn about half the cards from underneath, face up on top, squeeze in, drop these cards down, turn over, and drop. Spread out, and there's your little chosen card reversed in the middle of the deck, like a small weeping puppy in a pet shop window. Marvelous. Let's look at a nice way to produce a little card. The dear old Pete Fortin pop-out for the ace of spades. In this case, could be a chosen card, could be anything really. Well, it couldn't be a small hamster because that would squidge up the deck, but any card indeed would do. Here's how it actually works. You have the card reversed on the bottom of the deck. Now, as you adjust the deck between your hands, you take a little thumb break on the bottom card. That's the reversed card, the ace of spades in this case, and you take over that with the right thumb. The left hand cuts off the top half of the deck. Keep your break here. Now you can squidge the packets together, run them backwards and forwards over each other if you will, and now all you're going to do is you're going to let that ace drop off, and it's going to be half momentum and half gravity, if you will, that's going to take it. It's going to revolve around your second finger here. So we're going to go boom and catch it between the packets. So the card starts at the bottom. We have our break. We do our little squidge, and we do our catch. And that's the Pete Fortin pop-out. Pretty little ways to produce a card. I mean, if you know a million ways to find a card and only one way to produce it, you only know one trick. If you know loads of ways to show the card and only one way to find it, well, you know a million card tricks. It's, you want ways to make cards appear. So here's a pretty little way. Let's say you've chosen the ace of spades. You know, this is one of the oldest little effects in magic, and so few people use it. It's where you just drop the deck and their card appears face up on the deck. This is a lovely little thing. All you do is control their card to the top of the deck. Shuffle, keep it on top of the deck. Hey, you got a million ways to do that on this DVD. Now all we do is we take the cards into the right hand. I'm going to push that top card over just a little bit, maybe an inch or so. My fingers are concealing the fact it's turned over, so as I drop it, and their card appears face up. Just for fun, here's another little way to reveal a chosen card. Let's say your card was the ace of spades, and boom, it jumps straight out of the deck. Lovely little moment for you. Now, here's how you do it. You have a card chosen. So in this case, now it's the 7 of hearts. 7 of hearts is returned to the deck. We'll give them a little mix and match up, just as so. And using the techniques you've learned on these DVDs, of course, you know as well as I do, you've controlled it to the top of the deck. Now as you square up the deck on the table in front of you, you want to lift up the back of that top card just a little and flex it. You want to put a little bend into it, just as so. Let's exaggerate it so you can see it very clearly. Just want to put a little bend in the back there. Now you want your hands to come together, but not above the deck. You want your hands to be coming across the table because you want the air force to go forward and flip the card over. So just like that. And that's a lovely little revelation of a chosen card using air pressure. The biddle move is an interesting little move that I use for a number of my effects. Let's look at a way, first of all, just to show how it can vanish a card for you. So let's take the 4 aces, the ace of spades, ace of clubs, ace of hearts, and ace of diamonds, and put them onto the table. What's interesting is, using the biddle move, the ace of clubs has already vanished from the packet. Now, that's not a great magic effect, but this is the principle we're going to be teaching here. Let's show exactly how the principle's used. So we have 4 aces on the deck. Now what's going to happen here is I'm going to take the ace of diamonds with my thumb. Now notice how my thumb goes right over the deck and pulls it off. Now I'm going to take the ace of clubs, and notice how the ace of diamonds goes right underneath the deck at this point. It's like the deck is covering it because my thumb is having to come across and take the next ace. So the ace of clubs comes off. I hold a break on it, a little finger break. Now as I come across again, the deck covers the cards, and that's the moment I steal the ace of clubs back underneath the deck as I'm pulling the card away. So let me show you that one more time. Here are the aces on the face of the deck. First one's pulled off. Second one I hold a break on. So I come over on the 3rd ace, I steal that ace away, and then I take the 4th ace. So all I've really got is 3 aces. I've stolen one of them away. From your view, it looks very much like just 1, 2, 3, 4 aces on the table. The ace of clubs I've got here on top of the deck. Here's a way I actually use the biddle move. I use it as, it's actually a Paul Harris idea, as part of the 3 cards across. I want to lose 3 cards from a packet of 10, because I want them to end up with 7 cards on one side. So I'll count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 cards off the top of the deck and hand them to them. They think they have 10 cards. They've actually got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 cards only for the end of the effect. It uses the biddle move to a really practical advantage. So what I'm doing is I'm counting 1, 2, 3 into my hand. Then I take a break on the next card, 4, 5, 6. Now as I come to take 7, I'm going to steal those 3 cards away. 7, 8, 9, 10. So instead of counting 10, I'm actually counting 7 into my hand. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Looks like I'm counting 10. I only have 7. So from the front again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It's a really convincing way to false count cards and make them vanish. And that's the biddle count. Let's say you're going to do a little 4-ace trick and you need to switch some cards in and out. The add for switch is a really delightful way to do it. So we have here 4 aces. That would be the ace of clubs, the ace of hearts, the ace of spades, and of course the ace of diamonds. That would be the start of a lead-in to a 4-ace trick. Of course, what's interesting is you've switched out 3 of the aces for 3 completely indifferent cards and just kept 1 ace in. This is a principle that can be applied to a lot of magical effects. Edward Marlowe's at-first anytime face-up switch. So let's have a little looky-see. It's quite simple to do. We have a break under 3 cards on top of the deck. These could be cards you're going to switch in. This is all up to you. After all, this isn't a toolbox about tricks. This is a toolbox about tools. So we take the 4 aces, in this case, we put them on top of the deck. We lift up all 7 cards. In other words, the aces and the 3 cards you had the break under. Now we're going to roll the top ace over onto your thumb, keep a break on it as you take it. So your right thumb is going to keep a little break on it just here as you flash the card. The ace of spades, repeat with the ace of hearts, repeat with the ace of clubs, and now as you come back, ditch the aces onto the deck as you pull the ace of diamonds over and throw that underneath to show the ace of diamonds. It looks exactly as though you've shown 4 aces. Of course, you've only shown 3 ordinary cards and an ace. Let me show it to you just one more time at working speed. So we have our 4 aces. That would be the ace of clubs, the ace of hearts, the ace of spades, and of course the ace of diamonds. You know, that's such a pretty little switch out of some cards. And that's the anytime face-up switch. My very good buddy Wesley James came up with an effect that was published as coming up in the world, and I think it's one of the more cunning ways to control a chosen card, and I think it's something very worthy of adding to your toolbox. Patrick Page, of all people, that god of magic, he loves this little guy. So here's the deal, what it looks like. We'll riffle down the deck, you say stop. Let's say you've stopped at a playing card. That's kind of nice. You've stopped at any card you like, my wee buddy. Let's have a little looky-see what you've got here. You've got the 8 of diamonds. Did you see it properly? No, it's the 8 of diamonds, okay. Let's square it in, pop it into the middle of those cards, pop it into the middle of those cards, and your card's lost in the deck. Au contraire, mon ami. Your card's on top of the deck. This is a beautifully subtle little control. Let me show you what it is. So we can have a card chosen this way or riffle down to it. It really doesn't matter. So here's their card. The 8 of spades in this case. Wow, I have a penchant for picking partners. At this point, we take a break on the bottom card of the deck. I swing cut the top half of the deck into my left hand, so I have the break right here on my right thumb. I take back your card, the 8 of spades, And now I'm going to push it forwards so that you can check it. Now, as the hands come together, I'm going to add that extra card, the broken off card, on top of it. So as my thumb, the edge of my thumb hits the back of that packet, I just drop that card. Now I twist the left hand away to show your card. I've actually added another card onto it. I pull the card flush, and now I open up these cards with my first finger, pop apparently your card into the middle, pop your card apparently into the middle of the middle, and yet I have your card on top. So here it is just one more time, so don't forget we have that break on the card here. We take your card, put it there. As I run forward, so I'm just going to let you check your card is okay. I put it into the middle. I put it into the middle of the middle, and hey, babes, Wesley is a genius. That's just the greatest. Wesley James, you are the man. Edward Marlowe came up with a fascinating concept called tilt. It's really very clever. So a card has been chosen, let's say the Ace of Spades, and I'm going to pop it somewhere, somewhere, there we go, into the deck of cards, just as so. What's clever, although it looks as though the card went straight into the center of the deck, I can immediately show that card to be on top of the deck. Edward Marlowe's tilt move at its simplest. Let's have a little look at the move. Essentially, we're going to tilt up the top card of the deck. Actually, we're going to tilt the deck down rather than the top card up, to be honest. We're going to tilt the deck down in the hand so there's a gap between the top card and the rest of the deck. Now, you don't want to be tilting the top card up. You tilt the rest of the deck down. So now when you take your chosen card, from the front, it's going to look as though you're going to put it into the middle of the deck. And in fact, a nice little off-putter is to actually, first of all, twist it slightly sideways and put it into the center of the deck so that you're kind of pushing some cards out from the middle of the deck. Almost as if, it's like, oh, blimey, it won't go in there. Now you're going to put it straight into the gap, but put in one leading corner first. This is just going to make it look very much more convincing. So one leading corner goes in, flattens out, and now you push the card in. Now, if you're going to need to do a double lift straight afterwards, as you push in, squeeze up and take a break. So that's going to allow you the chance to take a double lift. But the actual tilt move, just as a control, is lovely. It's like I'm going to put the card somewhere, somewhere into the deck. Whew. I think it doesn't get much cleaner than that. Ed Marlowe, tilt belongs to you, my friend. Here's a little move called the add-on. It's kind of useful for switching in and out cards. You'll see what I mean if I put it together with a little mini 4-ace routine for you. So we have the 4 aces. We have the Ace of Spades. We have the Ace of Hearts, the Ace of Diamonds, and finally, of course, the good old Ace of Clubs. Let me lay those out in a row as if I was going to go into a 4-ace routine. At this point, I've switched out 3 of the aces. The other 3 aces are here on top of the deck, ready to go into a little 4-ace assembly, for example. So how do you do it? We put the aces on top of the deck. At this point, I have a break under 3 cards on top of the deck, in this case. Other tricks you'll learn with an add-on, you may have to do more or less. But for the sake of explanation, we'll have a break on 3. The aces go on top of the deck, maintaining the break. I now lift all 7 cards. That's the aces and the 3 cards underneath them. I pull off the first ace, turn it over underneath the packet so I can re-show. The second ace, show it. The third ace, show it. The fourth ace, show it. Dump everything on top of the deck. All you've done is add on 1, 2, 3 cards to those aces. But lucky you, you've done it invisibly, so now the trick's going to be magical. Here's an interesting little move of Ed Marlowe's, the deep face-up switch. I actually use it for a couple of routines my great buddy Randy Wakeman has designed, and this move is required for those, so let's put it here for the sake of completeness in case you come across those or some others. We'll use the 4 aces yet again. There's the ace of spades, the ace of hearts, the ace of diamonds, and the ace of clubs. Snap our fingers, the ace of spades has disappeared, and I mean really disappeared. So where is it? In this case, it's actually way down here in the center of the deck. This is the deep face-up switch. Sometimes you're going to put the card at a certain number. So for example, if you wanted the card at 17th from the top, you'd count off and have a break under 16 cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Have a break under those 16 cards. So for the purposes of this explanation, let's assume you want that face-up card to be 17th from the top. We take our 4 aces, or our 4 cards. We're going to put them onto the back of the deck, but I'm going to hold a break on them with my right thumb, just as so. So there's my right thumb holding the break on the aces. Meanwhile, my left little finger is holding the break on those 16 cards. Isn't magic fun, buddies? Here we go with the move. Let's exaggerate this very much for you. The fingers grab from the front to cover the fact you're actually lifting up a thick packet. So you're lifting up a really thick packet, but your fingers are covering that. You draw off your first card, the ace of spades in this case. It goes underneath the entire packet. The packet is immediately dropped as you draw off the second ace to go underneath the packet, then the third ace showing apparently the 4 aces, but now you've only got 3 aces, and that ace of spades is 17th from the top of the deck. And that's Marlowe's deep face-up switch. So I've got a little ace of diamonds here, my friends. I'm going to take that ace of diamonds away. You know, diamonds are a girl's best friend. I guess that's why guys never get any. When you're doing little effects like, for example, the invisible palm, where the aces travel one at a time to the table, you're going to be wanting to vanish some cards. The Finley tent vanish is quite an effective way to do this. Let's have a look at the very simple version of the Finley tent vanish. That would be showing a card tilted up on the deck. We grab it, pull it away, whoa, it's gone. Now the Finley tent vanish, you'd think it would be very alarmingly apparent to everybody, but it's not. And I'll give you some little subtleties on it, of course. What you're doing is allowing that card to fall back onto the deck while you pretend to take it. Don't lift up your thumb. This is the big giveaway when you see people do that. What happens is the right hand comes in, it's going to cover the card, just as so. The right first finger is going to hit your thumb, and it's going to lift the thumb slightly, allowing that card to drop. So the right first finger comes in and hits the thumb, allowing that card to drop. At that point, you pretend to take the card, so pretend to grip it slightly, pull the hand backwards. It looks as though you've taken the card, especially as you're deliberately doing the really bad palming habit, the old fishhook thumb. It's a big giveaway you're palming, but in this case, you really want them to believe you're palming a card when you're not. An extra little touch on the Finley tent vanish, it was shown to me by a great Chicago magician, and rather than just take the card, You actually make it look as though you're bouncing the card into your hand. So you come here, and you just knock the deck up as though you're pushing the card into your hand. I think it looks kind of cute, and I think it convinces them that you're taking the card when you're not. It's a very simple little addition of just lifting the hand slightly as you do the drop. That's the Finley tent vanish. Now you can also do the tent vanish very convincingly with the card face up. We're going to take the card away, and again, it's gone. This time all you've done is drop the card but add some palmed cards to it. So at the start, before you do the Finley vanish, you palm off 2 or 3 cards from the deck into your hand. You now turn over the top card, face up. As your hand comes over to apparently palm the card, rather than take this one away, you're going to ditch the palmed cards you already have. So as you come over, again the finger lifts from the thumb up a little bit, allowing all those cards to drop. You pretend to take the card, and again, it's gone. And that's the little Finley tent vanish. It's a nice little pup tent of a movette. Originally called the slide in Erdnase, the glide has actually gone out of favor a lot with magicians. I use it for a couple of tricks all the time. I think it's a great little move. Let's first of all just look at the original slide, or glide as it's now become known. Essentially, you're showing the bottom card of the deck or a packet. We're going to put that card down on the table. It's changed to a different card altogether. How? It's the good old glide, my friends. Let's look at the move. Show the bottom card. Now look at the way I'm holding the deck. The thumb is a little over. The fingers are a little over as well, so I can curl my fingers in onto that bottom card. That means that for an exposed view, for our magic buddies learning this, I can pull back on that bottom card. You see those fingers just curl on in and just squeeze back. The deck's essentially being held between the first finger and the thumb, allowing these fingers to do the work, allowing those fingers to just have the job of pulling back on that bottom card. Now that's all going to be done as I turn the deck over. So now that bottom card is pulled back, meaning my fingers can reach on in, and now I can pull out the card that's second from the bottom of the deck, with the deck face down, of course. So in action, we show the ace on the bottom, we pull it out, pop the deck down, and the card has changed. A nice little touch on the glide, by the way, in fact it's actually a different technique on the glide, is to do it this way. Hold the deck from above with the fingers and the thumb on the side, but your little finger is at the back of the deck. You're going to do the same move, but differently. This time, the left fingers are going to push this card back. So the left fingers push the card back, as so, allowing you to take the second card from the bottom out, and at the moment it starts to clear, your little finger re-squares that card. So this is the extra technique on the glide. So you show the ace, put it onto the table, it changes, and there's the ace still on the bottom. If you're going to do this technique, make sure that when you're working to your audience, you don't have the deck sideways onto them. The deck is actually more front onto them, so that the hand is covering that little card coming out of the back. So you want your hand a little more onto them, just to cover that little professional touch on the glide. One of the things that truly separates the professional from the amateur magician or from the hobbyist magician is his ability to get out of any trouble, because trust me, tricks go wrong on everybody. I don't care how good you are. Every now and then it's going to be a I've lost the card moment. One of the most paramount skills you can learn is to cull a card. Let's say I've lost the ace of spades in the deck and I desperately need it. I can run through these cards just as if I'm kind of half looking for it, and then go, no, it's okay, I'll carry on with the trick anyway. At that point, I have the ace of spades. I've culled it to the top of the deck. This is a culling technique I use called the bucket cull. It's my own little technique, and I'll show you a couple of other ways as well. What I'm basically doing is running the cards into the right hand in groups, about 10 or 15 at a time. But importantly, I'm not running them side to side like this. They're actually coming into the cupped hand. The hand's kind of cupped around the front, hence the title bucket cull, because it's like a bucketing the deck. So as I spread through, the outer corner of the cards are going right at the base of my first finger. So we're going through. Then I come in and I start spreading some more cards out, looking for the card I want, in this case, the ace of spades. My left thumb goes onto the card in front of the ace of spades. My left fingers are resting on the back of the ace of spades. Now what's going to happen as I come in to spread more cards is those fingers are going to straighten just a little, pushing that card over, allowing the base of my first finger to steal the card away. As soon as it clears, I just carry on spreading. Let me do it with the ace face up and try to tilt my hands to an alarmingly unnatural position, but so you can kind of see it better. So I'm running through. I come to the card that I really want to cull, the ace of spades, sneaked out into the base of the first finger. Now remember, these fingers would normally be covering. The moment it clears, I start spreading again, going through the whole deck, bringing that ace of spades to the top of the deck. And that's the bucket cull. Another way to cull a card, just for the fun of it, a little extra one here, this will drive our camera crew mad because it's not on the list, is you can also do it from side to side. You can come here and just literally steal the ace from side to side. This, of course, can also be used as a simple control where you're looking through and you say, name any card. Oh, the 10 of hearts, that's a good one. You could have named any one, but you wanted the 10 of hearts. At that point, you're ready to rock, my friend. The ability to multiple cull is also kind of good. Let's do it with my bucket cull for you, because I'm not pushing it anyway. I just personally think it's the best cull around, but then I would, because it's mine. I'll often get somebody to take a card, and let's say I've done a fan force on them, which you'll see elsewhere in your Toolbox DVDs, and I've had them shuffle the deck. I don't know which card they picked. Let's say they picked the 2 of diamonds, for example. I know which card they picked, so I don't mind them shuffling the deck. I'll then take the deck back from them and stress the fact that they really shuffled up these cards. Man, you shuffled these little puppies like a maniac, didn't you? Let's have a little looky-see. Yep, that would be a shuffle deck, my friends. Now, at that point, I've culled all the 2s. Culled all 4 2s, so I can now go into a little revelation of all 4 2s, including their chosen one. Now, multiple culling is really essentially the same as single card culling. You're just adding other cards onto it. So let's, in this case, just cull out any 4 cards. It doesn't matter. So I'm going to cull the 8 of hearts first, exactly as we did before. I cull it. Now, my right little finger just holds on to it. As I come to the next card I'm going to cull, say the 8 of diamonds, that goes straight across on top of the first one. Just as before, just kind of ignore the one that's already there. The 8 of spades gets pushed across and culled. And as I'm going through, I can now cull the 8 of clubs directly on top. So now I've done some little multiple culling. I truly advise you to learn culling. It's not an easy move to do invisibly. You're going to have to do a lot of video practice on it, a lot of mirror practice on it as well, of course. But if you can cull a card, you'll never have to say oops again when you're doing card magic. Always fun to do little card vanishes. Let's just give that one a little rub away. That's the rub away card vanish. It's very, very easy to do. It's actually great fun if you're doing a multiple selection routine. You know, you say, there's spectator number 1, spectator number 2's card, spectator number 3, what was your card? Oh, you didn't have a card? Oh yeah, that's right. And move on to your next spectator. It's just a cute little way to vanish a card. So here's the rub away vanish. The left thumb pushes over, runs the edge of the card onto the edge of your working surface. The right hand is going to come in, apparently to cover the card and to take it. And that's exactly the action you want to duplicate. What's actually going to happen, as the right hand comes over and the left hand starts to move away, the left thumb is going to pull that card back and the right hand's going to go down on nothing, just acting as though it has a card. So the right hand comes up against it. As the right hand turns down, the left thumb pulls back and the right hand goes down onto nothing. Here's a cute little way to do this. Let's have a look at a way of combining moves to make a little magic happen. They'll have shuffled the deck of cards for me. I'll remove a little prediction card. They can have shuffled them as much as they like, of course. I'll then explain to them that I'm going to deal cards into a little pile and they can say stop whenever they like. So I'll deal cards out, deal, 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 deal. They say stop wherever they like and I'll cover their card with the deck box, with the case. We stress the impossibility of what's happened. They shuffle the deck. They stopped wherever they liked. The card is completely isolated. I don't even touch them at this point, but I have to here because I'm the only set of hands available. I would get them to turn over the card they stopped at, the ace of clubs. They check my prediction. It's the matching ace of spades. So how do you do this? They shuffle the deck as much as they like. I really don't care. When they finish shuffling, I take it back and I sight the top card of the deck. In this case, it's the ace of clubs. I run through the deck looking for my prediction card and I take the matching card to the top card of the deck. In this case, of course, the ace of spades. I pop that into the card case. I pick up the deck and as I'm picking it up, I take a break on that top card, the ace of clubs. And I take the card case and I pop it on top of the deck as I'm explaining to them that I'm going to deal cards down here. This has given me an excuse to put the case onto the deck because I'm using this hand to show them where I'm dealing. When I lift off the case, I take the ace of clubs with it. Now I'm going to do one hand dealing into a pile until they say stop. The moment they say stop, I'm going to do the actions of the rub away vanish. In other words, I'm going to push that card over and as I pull back, just pull the card away. Simultaneously, and at the same time, I may add, the card case is going to be put down on the table, but in this manner. I'm actually going to do that. So I'm going to drop and move the case away. I'm not going to put it down and move it across. I'm actually going to move it across in midair so that that card lands just slightly underneath. So here's the action. We do the start of the rub away vanish. I drop the case. And it looks exactly as though you've just dropped the case on top of the card that was coming from the top of the deck. It's a very pretty illusion when timed correctly. Then it's all over bar the shouting. All they've got to do is turn over the card, open the box, the predictions match. We all go down the pub and we have 87 beers to celebrate a magnificent, magical moment. Magicians don't use glimpsing too often, and I find that surprising because it can lead to some really astonishing magical happenings for you. Let's look at a couple of glimpses you might want to try out. I could run through the cards as so and ask you to say stop whenever you like. You say stop, I put the deck down in front of you, and I know your card. I can allow you to shuffle that deck of cards right here and right now, then go into a culling technique, for example, and it's a miracle because nothing seems to have happened. Your card, by the way, was the Six of Hearts. Just thought you'd like to know. Here's how I glimpsed the card. I'm holding the deck in my left hand. It's beveled over to the right slightly. So it's going to allow me to have a very clean run along the cards. I run along the cards, you say stop. I open up the deck. As I close the deck, I allow my little finger to take a break on your card. This is simply just allowing a bit of pressure onto the card. The right hand is now going to come over the top, as so, gripping the outside left corners. So the left-hand corners of the cards. Thumb at the inner side, second finger of the right hand on the outer side. I'm now just going to turn the deck over but maintain my break all the way through. What happens is if you just rotate the deck over, because of the way your little finger is in there, it'll automatically start to split those packets so that I can glimpse the card you just looked at. The moment I see it, I'm squaring the deck. So at a kind of working speed, you glimpse a card, I turn the deck and put the deck down, and that's how to simply glimpse the 10 of spades in that case. Now this whole idea of just peeking cards is great. It's great fun. Let's look at a couple of controls from peeking cards. Let's first of all, peeking cards. Ooh, they're from China. Very nice. Let's do a little double control. This is the Daily, Dr. Daily double peek control. Easier to do than to say, thankfully. So we would riffle through, say stop, remember one card. Say stop, somebody else remembers a card. Now what's going to happen is I'm just going to cut the deck. At that point, I have both those glimpsed cards on the bottom of the deck. That's the Daily double control. Let's show you how it's done. It's actually not that tough, but very efficient. So I riffle through, you say stop, I hold a little finger break on that card. Riffle through, you say stop, I hold a third finger break on that card. So now I'm actually holding 2 breaks. What's going to happen now, the top section is moved over as I'm going to go into the cut. The left fingers, let's move my thumb up there so you can see, my left fingers push out the other card just as so, and now I'm going to cut and strip that card out as I complete the cut. What that does, of course, is put both cards on the bottom of the deck. For one of the little tricks I do, I need a peaked card on top and one on the bottom. With very little adjustment to the Daily movement, I can do that quite easily. Let me show it to you as a little extra samey bonus. I run through the cards, they say stop, they glimpse the card. I let just one card run off, then I take the break. I run through, they peek the second card, I take the break with the third finger. So again, I have 2 breaks. Now all I'm going to do is cut off the top section, cut to the second break, and pop that on top. Very efficiently puts one of the peaked cards on top and the other peaked card on the bottom. So there's a little samey bonus peaky thing for you. In the 70s, there was a huge explosion of packet tricks that relied on certain false counts. The counts are also useful for other effects as well. Let's go through some of those counts so your education for packet tricks is hopefully vaguely complete. First of all, let's do the buckle count. This would be where I would count 1, 2, 3, 4 aces. Now, because of the trick I'm about to do, I actually needed an extra card concealed, the 8 of diamonds. I concealed it using the buckle count. So that would be 1, 2, 3, 4 aces. How do you do it? What's going to happen? Some people advocate buckling with the first finger. I actually prefer buckling with the little finger. The buckle, of course, is the buckling on this bottom card here. It's literally buckled. Sounded almost rude there. Lovely. Put my hands into an unnatural position to show you the exact action. So I take ace number 1, ace number 2, I buckle, take the 2 cards as one, and then the last ace. So I'm literally just taking that block as one card. Of course, it doesn't have to be just one card concealed. I may want 3 cards concealed, for example. So let's do exactly the same action for a multiple buckle count. So that would be 1, 2, buckle my shoe, 4. And that's the simple buckle count. Very useful for face down effects. If you're doing one of those ones where, for example, they think you've got 4 cards, you take one away and you've still got 4, for example, like this. So you'd say, I've got here 1, 2, 3, 4 cards. I'll throw one away because I only actually need 3 cards for this trick. That's 1, 2, 3, oops, must have miscounted. Let's throw one away because I only need 3 for the trick. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, oops, must have miscounted. Throw one away, that's 1, 2, 3. Hell, let's just forget the 3-card trick and do a trick with 4 cards instead. So you can use the buckle count in all sorts of amusing ways. That's the buckle count. You can also leave the cards spread out for a buckle count. For example, you don't just need to count them 1, 2, 3, 4. You can actually leave them as a spread, of course. That would be 1, 2, 3, 4. And actually spread out the cards for a very clean display before you go into your little routine. So just a minor difference between the buckle count and the buckle spread. Certain little packet tricks are going to require you to do multiple lifts from a packet. For example, twisting the aces requires you to do a triple turnover of 3 cards right at the start of the effect. Now this could be kind of sneaky from a packet because holding a break on just one card, it can be a little awkward and you can lose them quite easily. So instead, replace the break with a buckle and it all becomes so much easier. So as I'm going to turn over the card, coming in to turn it over, I'm going to buckle down just that bottom card. So I can come in to apparently just turn the top card, buckle the bottom card as I turn over the top 3 cards. If I'm required to turn them down again, I can just buckle and turn down. This makes the actual action of turning the card look very natural indeed. So use the buckle instead of a break. You can also, by the way, a little Simey addition thing coming on here to drive our camera crew mad again, you can also do a double buckle. This would enable you to do a double lift on top of a packet, just as so. So rather than just buckling one card, you can actually buckle 2 cards and now go directly into a double on top of the packet. So that's a little additional one for you there. The good old double buckle. Love it. Perhaps the most popular of all the little counts for packet tricks has become known as the Elmsley count. I knew Alex Elmsley very, very well, and in fact, he didn't refer to it as the Elmsley count, but referred to it, in fact, as the 4 count. The count looks as follows. You're literally going to casually show 4 cards. However, during your 4 count, you've concealed 1 face-up card. The card starts off 3rd from the top, but as you count the cards, you're literally concealing that card. So how's it done? The Elmsley count is not about counting, in my opinion, by the way, is not about counting 1, 2, 3, 4 cards. Because, after all, if you just wanted to count 4 cards, you'd show them 4 cards. It's much more of just a casual moving of cards from hand to hand. The right hand grip. The thumb is on the edge of the cards, the fingers underneath, slightly bowing the cards. Now for the original 4 count, the left hand comes over, the left thumb takes just the top card and moves forward. It's really important that the right hand stays still. It's not one of these squidge, squidge, squidge counts, trust me. That just looks like 2 ferrets mating in your hands. So you casually take the top card. As you come back to apparently just take the 2nd card, the right thumb pushes forwards just a little bit. Now you'll find, because of the bowing of the cards and the fact the thumb is right on the edge, that 2 cards will go over as 1. It's a simple block push-off, if you like. The left hand comes under the right hand and leaves its card behind as you take the top 2 cards. Don't be tempted to do this, which I see a lot of magicians do. Let me show you the bad habits. Bad habit number 1 would be to go like that. It really looks unconvincing. Trust me. It's just 1, leave the card behind square, 2, 3, 4. Let's do it again for you. 1, 2 card push begins, card goes underneath, 2, 3, and 4. And that's the 4 as 4 count, also known primarily these days as the Elmsley count. Now you'll see a lot of magicians, though, doing it like this. Now why is that? I'll tell you, it's because of it's actually the haunting of a great trick, Twisting the Aces by Dave Vernon, which is a wonderful, wonderful effect. And part of that effect was to twist the cards and then count them. Now because you're already in this position, it actually made sense during that trick to do the Elmsley count or the 4 as 4 count that way. It's really not the way to do it for any other trick, unfortunately, because this is an unnatural action unless you've just done this twisting action. No, much better to actually just count the cards casually from hand to hand into the full palm. And that's exactly how Alex Elmsley used to do the count himself. So if you want to emulate the master, well, do it that way then. So let's look at how I leave that card behind in ultra close-up action with my hands kind of tilted back. So I take the top card. Now as I'm coming in to take the next 2, remember those 2 are pushed over slightly. I come in, I leave that card that's in my left hand, I'm leaving it behind as I take the top 2 cards. Let me show you that one more time. Let me see if I can splay my fingers. See, the delight of this count, of course, is it's so brilliantly concealed that it's hard to show it to you. So here we go. So I take, let's see if I can leave these fingers open. Card number 1. As I come back in to take the top 2, I leave that one behind. That would be 2, 3, 4. So at a working speed, the count from underneath looks kind of like this. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And there's an Elmsley count, the 4 as 4. Now the 4 as 4 count has a lot of possibilities open to it. Let's say, for example, that I showed you 4 aces, and I'm going to go into a little effect using 1, 2, 3, 4 aces. What's kind of cool is I'm way ahead if I'm going to do some vanishes here, because one of the aces has already gone. This is essentially the 4 as 4 count. This has become known as the Seaver count because you're actually counting 3 cards as 4. What's great is it's the Elmsley count, the 4 as 4, but without a 4th card, if you will. So all I did was show you 4 aces. As I squared them onto the deck and pretended to take them away, I left one of the aces behind on the deck. Just for our little magic buddies who were panicking, going, where's that last ace gone? I bet it's in Peru by now. So I've actually got 3 cards here, but I want to count them as 4. I'm going to do exactly the same action as a 4 as 4 count, but now I don't need to push a double. So I take 1 card. As I come back in, I start to push the single card. I leave the left-hand card behind, just as if I'm doing this 4 as 4 count, and count 2. I've only got 1 card here. Now 3, 4. So essentially, it's the 4 as 4 count with 3 cards, the Seaver count. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4 cards. Very convincing, especially as you've only got 3. Now this huge explosion of packet tricks sometimes required you to look as though you've got 4 cards, but actually have like 83 million of them. So let's look at the 4 as 4 count with a multiple concealment. So here we're going to count 1, 2, 3, 4 cards. Apparently I've only got 4 cards. Actually, I've got 7, and 3 of them are face up. This would be to go into some kind of little packety kind of trick, perhaps using a Vernon through the fist flourish, for example. That's an extra little one for our camera crew. Let's throw that in as a little mini bonus extra here. Little through the fist flourish is where you put your thumb on the card. As you turn, you just push them through your fist. It looks just like you're casually doing a little thing with the packet, but in the process, of course, you've turned the packet upside down. It's quite cute. Boom. And there we've turned the packet upside down. Very nice, Simon. But anyway, I digress. Let's dive back to this multiple 4 as 4-y thing. So your extra cards would start, in this case, 4th, 5th, and 6th in the bottom. In other words, just above the bottom card. It really is the same as the 4 as 4 count. You just have to be very careful on this. First of all, you want to tilt your hand down more, because you've got a really fat packet there, and I think people can recognize the difference between 4 and 7 cards. So you want your packet tilted down more, which means your right wrist has to go out more. So you want the cards more this way rather than this way to them. Now you're going to do the same action as the 4 as 4 count. So we count 1. Now we do a block push off of all of those cards. As you come back in, leave that card behind, just as you did with the Elmsley count, the 4 as 4, and take the entire block as 2, and then 3 and 4. So it's 1, block push off, take the block 2, 3, 4. And now you're ready to go into your little packety trick. That's how to use a 4 as 4 with 8 million cards. Well, 7. Okay. It was nearly 8 million. It's used in a great many packet tricks. It's become known as the Jordan count, which is a misnomer because it's not really a count. It actually is the Jordan displacement. Here's what it looks like. 1, 2, 3, 4 cards. It looks a little bit like the 4 as 4 count, doesn't it? But it's not. You see, with the Jordan displacement, which was originally used in a rather, to be quite honest, an awful trick where cards just changed places, the card starts off, that's going to be concealed, in this case, on the bottom of the deck. At the bottom of the deck, the bottom of these 4 cards. Well, it might be a deck to a very small person, but it's the bottom of the cards. Now, here's how we're going to do it. We count 1. Now we come back, and we're not going to leave this card behind. We count 2, quite normally. Now as we come back, these 2 cards in the left hand go square underneath the right hand cards, and we take all the cards apart from the bottom card. 3, 4. Let me do that again, because if you've been practicing Elmsleys, it's going to get really confusing. So 1, second card from the top. Now just imagine it this way, that all the cards go together. You do a block push-off of 3 cards for 3, 4. So 1, 2, block push-off of 3, 4. Now if you're going to be practicing this little puppy, here's a nice little tip for you. When you do the Jordan displacement, that concealed card actually ends up 3rd from the top. So now you can have a nice little practice session of doing Elmsley, or 4 as 4, Jordan, Elmsley, Jordan. So this way you can get both the moves looking identical to each other. And that's going to be exactly what you need if you need to do both Elmsleys and Jordans within a packet trick. Brother John Hammond, a wonderfully inventive magician, has given us a good few packety kind of counts, perhaps the most famous of which is the flustration count. And it would look a little like this. I have an ace of spades, an ace of spades, an ace of spades, and an ace of spades. That's 4 aces of spades, but what I actually wanted for the effect was just the ordinary 4 aces. So the frustration count allows you to show a number of cards to be identical or indeed have the same color back. So, do I have any blue cards here? Yeah, okay, I've got a few just here. Let's just show you with the backs. So I could also do it this way, for example. I could say I have 1, 2, 3, 4 red-backed cards, but actually have odd-colored cards here as well. So how does the little frustration count work? It's very, very simple. All you're doing is you show the bottom card of a packet, your hand turns down, and you take the top card of the packet off into your hand. So you show the bottom card, take the top card. Show the bottom card, take the top card. Show the bottom card, take the top card. It's very, very simple. One little thing I like to do on this, by the way, is to change the way I show the cards, just to mix and match. So I'll show here, then I'll show here, then I'll show here, then I'll show here. I just like that little extra confusion moment there with their eyes, so they're not quite sure what's happening, but you're telling them what's happening. So hopefully if they trust you, they'll believe you. So as you know, there's not many tricks on these DVDs, but in fact there's a whole potpourri of magic for you to create for yourself. Let's just combine a couple of our counts so far and show you a very simple example of what you can do with your toolbox. So let's say I have 1, 2, 3, 4 red-backed cards here in my hands. I snap my fingers, I turn over, and wow, I've got 4 blue-backed cards. Now, I'm not saying this is a great trick, I'm just giving it to you as an example of how you should put your moves together. All we've done here is simply take the frustration count to show red-backed cards. As I've come back in, I've put that card second in. So now I can turn over and do an Elmsley count, a 4 is 4 count, to show that the cards have now turned into blue-backed cards. Look through all of your moves, put them together, and you'll suddenly find that though you don't find many tricks on these DVDs, there's actually billions of them for you to discover all for yourself. In some of the packet effects, you'll find a move called the Gemini count described, asking you to do the Gemini count of Brother John Hammond. In fact, Darwin Ortiz has a wonderful routine using this very count. Let me show you the count in case you come across it. So I'm going to show you 4 cards. An ace of hearts, ace of diamonds, ace of diamonds, and ace of hearts. In other words, 4 red aces. So snap my fingers, and now I have a king, a king, a king, and a king. 4 red aces to 4 kings. Okay, how's it done? Actually, you're seeing 2 cards twice. So we have, in this case, I'm just using these for examples so that you can see the big difference. We'll have 2 aces and 2 kings in this case, just 4 cards. There's a bit of work here. For the first card you're going to show, you're going to buckle the bottom card, and you're also going to twist up the top card just a little bit. Now what this is going to enable you to do is reach in and take those 2 center cards as one out. So if I can do this from above. So it's enabling me to take those 2 center cards as one. A buckle, twist the top card over a little, and as I come up, now I'm going to turn over just those cards. I turn the double down, I put the top card onto the table. Now I just twist off the top card a little bit, enabling me to take the 2 bottom cards, turn those over, put down. Now I can take just the bottom card, turn it over, and turn over the next card. So I'm showing apparently 4 cards, all different, but in fact what I'm actually doing is showing a pair of cards twice. And that's Brother John Hammond's Gemini count. And look up the Darwin Ortiz routine. I believe it's called Jumping Gemini, and it's great. There's also Brother John Hammond's Twins, of course. Look up that. It uses this count. So if you've learnt it, Learn some magic with it. When you're doing these packet tricks, certainly we discover the wonderful world of Emerson and West, who put out like 8 trillion packet tricks. You'll often be asked to do a thing called an Ascanio spread. Now, there seem to be as many variations of this as there are card guys on the planet, but this is the way I do the Ascanio spread. It's a way of showing 4 cards and yet concealing 1 or 2 cards or 3 cards in the center of the packet. So again, the card is face down in the center, but when I spread the cards, it looks just as I'm showing the 4 aces. So how do we achieve the Ascanio spread? The original was more side to side like this, but that's not the way I do it. I can do it that way, but I just don't. So here's how it works. The cards are held between the thumb and second finger of the right hand. The first finger of the right hand is resting on top of the cards. Underneath, what's going to happen, the left hand's going to come in and split off the bottom card, so it's pulled off to one side. At the same time, the left thumb splits off the top card, so you're pulling essentially the middle 3 cards out and backwards. At that point, the left little finger goes onto the very bottom card and allows you to split the double away from it, coming back here. So this is your double card. So one more time. The cards are held, second finger, thumb, first finger on top. The left hand comes in, splits off the bottom card and the top card. The block is pulled back. The left little finger pulls out the very bottom card of the block as you go forwards again. This allows a very clean display of the 4 cards, or actually 5 cards as 4. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. That's the Ascanio spread. There's a lot of stuff you can do with this. In fact, Paul Harris, my good little buddy, came up with a version of the invisible palm. Now for the invisible palm, we won't go through the whole routine, of course, because it's his. You need a double on the table, and he uses the Ascanio spread gorgeously to lay down a double. Here's the idea of the effect, and in fact we'll add an extra little move in here for your toolbox. You see, I've got a card face down behind the aces, so I can show the aces nice and clean, almost with a version of the buckle count, but all I'm doing is taking off the top 3 cards and leaving the last 2 as one together. I would now say I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 aces. It looks just as I've shown you 4 aces, but now I have an indifferent card on top, which I'm going to need for the invisible palm routine. But here's Paul's lovely little idea. I go into the Ascanio spread, this is the double, now I just lay the edges down and pull away. That allows me to leave a perfect double on the table, so that when I go into the invisible palm routine, it's going to look exactly as though a card has appeared on the table. So that's one really good reason to look up Paul Harris's routine, which I believe you'll find in Las Vegas Close-Up, and of course in his gigantic trilogy, The Art of Astonishment. That's one way you'll learn the Ascanio spread, and then you'll learn the rest of the routine, and you'll have a routine that murders. Concealing extra cards within a packet is all well and good, but it's all about showing the cards naturally. Let me say I want to do a trick with 4 aces, just as so. It looks very casual. It looks as though I couldn't have actually controlled anything because I'm just spreading out the cards. In fact, I have actually concealed another card behind the aces, and it could be 2 or 3 cards. So how do I do it? First of all, I'm going to take the top ace. Then I'm going to take the second ace underneath. This is all quite natural. Now my left hand is going to do all the work here, so let's lose the right hand. The left hand is going to push with the thumb, and the little finger is going to grip those 2 cards, so now they're locked against the base of my thumb and between the little finger. So it's going to allow my thumb to move that card forward very naturally. So although you've got 3 cards, you can now make it look as though you've casually got 2 cards only. So when you're going to do your little display, you're just saying, I've got here 4 aces. Put the cards back together, and hey, you're ready to rock with that extra card. And that's how you hide a card in a packet in a very casual display. Here's a little move that has a very long name, very simple to do, and it looks as though it shouldn't have any applications, but it's got gazillions. It's really, really good. It's called the Marlowe pull-down. Essentially, this is the idea. I'm going to show you the King of Hearts, put it on the bottom of the deck, and it's not there anymore. Let's look at the move, and then let me show you a couple of applications for this that are kind of cool. The actual move itself is the deck is beveled back towards the left thumb a little bit. The left little finger can now reach in and pull down on that bottom card. This is the Marlowe pull down. So as I show the card, I do the pull down. As I go to put it on the bottom of the deck, I'm actually putting it second from the bottom of the deck because of that pulled down card. So when I square, it appears as though the card is on the bottom, but it's not. So let me show you a little application, a simple application of the Marlowe pull down. Take a stranger card to your deck. I've got a blue back deck here and a red backed 4 of diamonds. Let's take the matching 4 of diamonds and let's put these together with some of our other moves from the DVD toolbox to make a little trick happen. Let's start with the red backed 4 of diamonds on the bottom of the deck and our normal 4 of diamonds on the top. Let's use the world's easiest riffle force, for example, to force that 4 of diamonds. So they would say stop, I would say take your card, and they would look at it. It's the 4 of diamonds. Now I'm going to ask them to sign that card. So what I do is the Marlowe pull down. I put the card back in second, make sure they see it. It's the 4 of diamonds. I put it back second from bottom. I turn the deck over. They're still seeing the 4 of diamonds, cementing that it must be their card. They sign the card. I cut the deck. I put the deck face down on the table. I snap my fingers. I spread the cards. One red-backed card appears in the deck. We turn it over. It's their signed card. And that's a very simple way to use the Marlowe pull-down combined with the force from your toolbox to create a visually lovely piece of magic. You could even have something written on the back of here, you know, like, oh, this is your card. Happy birthday. Congratulations on your marriage. Sorry Uncle Morty died. You know, that kind of thing. Just to create a memorable souvenir from 2 simple moves. A great many of the packet tricks will also want you to do the Hammond count. The Hammond count looks a little like this. You would count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 black cards. At this point, I've actually got, just for explanation purposes, 4 blacks and 3 reds. The count has allowed me to conceal these 3 red cards. It's essentially a packet switch in your hands. So here's how it's done. Right second finger, right thumb holding the packet. First finger curled on top. Actually, a great trick that uses this count is Peter Kane's Gypsy Curse, which is one of the most spectacular of all the packet tricks. So you really want to get this count down, then rush out and buy that particular effect. So here we go. So we count quite normally the first 3 cards, but into the base of the fingers. So 1, 2, 3. Now the switch is going to come up. What's going to happen is, as I'm going to count off 4, I'm going to take this entire block and take these back. But I'm going to overshoot the packet slightly so that I can come down. That leaves these 3 cards sticking out so that now I can take them away. Do that in detail for you. So 1, 2, 3, overshoot so that I can take away those cards and carry on counting. So at speed, or working speed if you will, it's 1, 2, 3, switch, keep on counting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 black cards, concealing 3. Now, of course, that's not much of a trick just to conceal 3 red cards, but that's just to display the count. But you'll discover a lot of great magic